of raisins. And for a part of a cake of pressed figs and 2 cakes of raisins, what happens? All of a sudden, God provides for David the information he needed, a guide to take them to the front door of the Amalekite camp, and he ends up with all of his family back, all the soldiers' wives and their children back, and he's marching with all this good stuff that was there, all the plunder that they had amassed, the Amalekites, now David had as his plunder. You think God pays back? You bet he does. Are you tight with your possessions? You see a need, you're thinking, well, we can't afford that. You meet needs with your money. You meet needs with your possessions, and God will be generous to you. We don't do it for our sake. We do it for God's sake, and it's up to God how he wants to respond to it. But the goal for us is to love people with our stuff. And the Bible puts that as the priority number 1 for people making a claim to godliness, because God so loved the world, he gave, and he expects us to give of our time, of our money, of our resources, of our possessions, of ourselves. And so we need to give, and we need to be generous for God's sake. Look at all that God did for David. Wow, big deal. Sure it was. Okay, let's take all the stuff, go back. They're marching, all this stuff. Look at the next verse. They come back to this ravine, the Bezor ravine. And David came to the 200 men that had been too exhausted to follow him. And you can imagine the reception and just how happy these men were. Here these men were depressed and exhausted and out of strength, and there they were hanging out. All of a sudden they see this dust cloud come up, and they hear, sheep bleating and camels doing whatever noises the camels make. And here they come, and they start seeing their children. And they start seeing their wives and their friends and their grandmas. And here they are. And I could just picture some of the soldiers down on one knee, hugging and tears coming down their cheek. Their children are back. And it's just a huge, huge, huge victory. 200 men, too exhausted across the ravine. 400 men already had their family. They're coming back. Happy day. It was a happy day. Everyone was greeted. And everyone was having a great time until verse 22. But the evil men and the troublemakers among David's followers said, since these 200 wimpy guys didn't go out with us, and they didn't work with us, and they didn't cross the ravine with us, and they didn't have the stamina and the strength that we had, we're not going to share any of the plunder that we recovered. They can't have any of this stuff. Yeah, each man can take his wife and his kids and get out of here and go home, and all the wimpy people can split, but they're not getting any of the stuff that we got.